Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is March 7th. You're listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And today we're talking about AI and the future of work. Who's getting the job? Who's losing the jobs? All the things. We're going to talk about all of it today. We actually have some cool quotes to share along the way, some cool things that have, or some interesting quotes that have come out over the last few days. Today we got Jyunmi, Beth, Karl, Andy, and I'm Brian. And we want to kind of dive into this. And I thought, Karl, you actually shared one of the more interesting quotes yesterday that came from Sam Altman. Now, it came from actually a few months back, it sounds like. But man, if you wanted to put a quote on like a Canva backboard and slap that up on social media and get some eyeballs or get some impressions or comments on it, but I don't want to steal your thunder. Do you have it up in front of you? Or do you want me to read it, Karl?
Give me 1 second, because so to set this up, I heard about this through the artificial intelligence show put on by the Marketing AI Institute. So it's episode number 86, and it starts around 33:03 and ends around 35:52. So it's a couple minutes. But they were talking about a conversation that Sam Altman had with a couple guys from our aijourney.ai back in November 2023, right before he was let go from OpenAI, and then everybody knows he came back. So these are 3 questions to set this up, and they were talking about the future and AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. So the question is, when you say AGI, what do you mean? And then Sam says, when AI is available to achieve novel scientific breakthrough on its own. So I think it wasn't a podcast, it was just a conversation. What will AGI mean for us and for consumer brand marketers trying to create ad campaigns and the like to build their companies? So I think they were talking about it from the lens of marketers and business owners and so. Mm-hmm. So Sam casually,
which is why this is relevant, by the way, today. Yeah. This is why this is relevant for today's show. We're talking about jobs and where AI is going to have an impact. So listen to this quote.
Yeah. So to set this up even more, Paul Reitzer and Mike Kaput have said, like, Sam doesn't usually talk like very casually or informed. It's very, all the other speeches he's done, very like well rehearsed, probably has notes and people, writing some of the stuff, although a lot of it's ad lib too. But this quote, so he says, so again, the question is, what will AGI mean for us and for consumer brand marketers trying to create ad campaigns and the like to build their companies? His response, for that, it will mean that 95% of what marketers use agencies, strategists, and creative professionals for today will easily, near instantly, and almost no cost will be handled by the AI. And the AI will likely be able to test creative against real or synthetic customer focus groups for predicting results and optimizing. Again, all free, instant, and near perfect. Image, videos, campaign ideas, no problems. And then they kind of went on further. When do you think AGI will be a reality? And Sam goes, 5 years, give or take, maybe slightly longer, but no one knows exactly when or what it will mean for society.
And he went on to talk more about AGI and like that stuff at that where was the location where they had the big conference in the desert? Where was that? A couple months ago. Davos, yeah, thank you. Yeah. I'd never heard of it before this year, so I was like trying to think of where it was. Thank you. Davos.
Desert conference. Does Las Vegas count?
That is the desert. I was technically right
there was a big conference.
I think Davos is the ski area.
Oh, that's the ski area? Oh, okay.
Oh, that's the name of the conference, but yeah.
I think we're splitting hairs. No, I couldn't remember the name of it. Thank you. So, okay, I wanted that quote to start off with, and I have another one. I want to dive into that more, but look, the topic of today's show is where is AI currently impacting jobs, and where do we see this trend going? Now, you just heard a really crazy, not crazy, eye-opening, I would say, quote about specifically marketing, brand marketing, marketers in general. And almost offhandedly in that quote. You could almost hear it in his voice, like, "Oh yeah, marketing. Yeah, near instantaneously, blah blah blah, replaced by AI for no cause." Like he said it almost too casually. You could almost hear his voice and being like you said, Karl, like it doesn't sound scripted. It just sounds like Sam saying something so easily understood to him in Universal that he casually said that.
Yeah.
And that's what they were
Right.
kind of talking about the podcast. That was my response when I saw that quote. I said, "Wow, that is a powerful quote that seems to be just flippantly thrown out there. Like it didn't have like a, by the way, we're going to disrupt this area tremendously. It was like, oh yeah, no, AI will totally, of course, obviously be able to do that."
So
Go
the
ahead, Beth.
context of the quote. I'm just going to add the banner here, and it's our AI journey.ai. The people who
Which is
run
really
it,
a book. Let's be honest. That's a book that they're trying to
It
sell.
looks like
They're
a
trying to sell a.
they're
They're
writing the book.
selling a.
No,
Those
they're
the people writing the book are selling a community to sell the book. So you get the book when you pay the $99. It's fine, but anyway, that's where it's from.
Okay, not exactly. Yes, they're writing a book. The people in the community get to have conversations with the people while they're writing the book. You get to have conversations based on chapters, etc. I did join the community. I am good with it. They are Adam Brockman and Andy Sack. They're not just like two Joes writing a book. These are like insiders having really interesting conversations and sharing their journey, which started to a certain extent in this context with that conversation with Sam. But the question that was asked before was, "Oh, what does AGI mean?" And Sam's first answer was AGI means science being able to make scientific breakthroughs with on its own. And so then Adam and Andy said, "What does it mean for our situation, which was marketing?" And that was the context of that answer. So it was definitely an off the cuff kind of answer, not fully thought out. But it was because it wasn't what he was trying to think of in general, according to the chapter.
What Sam said was very consistent with what research has shown the impact of AI is, and I'm going to refer specifically here to the BCG study. Now, remember there was an evaluation of BCG consultants. Now, Boston Consulting Group is made up of the best and the brightest, really coming out of the elite institutions and serving as strategic consultants to multiple businesses. Now, when they used AI, and specifically ChatGPT-4, they found, and you've probably heard these things, but I'm going to tell you another thing that came out of that study that's relevant to this. They found that there was a dramatic improvement in the quality and productivity, meaning in quantity of output for consultants. And the other thing that you probably heard was that it had a larger impact on the relatively middling consultants whose evaluations prior to that were in the mid range rather than the most excellent of the consultants. So it brought the people who didn't have the best capabilities up closer to the top. So there was a bigger increase in their performance. But here's the other thing that's not mentioned often. When the AI was used in the context of creative ideation, then there was a dramatic improvement. But when it was used for solving complex business problems that required nuanced analysis, it reduced the value and quality of the output of the consultants across the board. So what Sam was saying was, oh, you want a creative agency to come up with 11 ideas and all of that? That's going to happen instantaneously. That's going to happen free. That's going to be, the broad range of creative output is one of the key values of GPTs generally. They have a really broad perspective. Their reasoning capabilities and their analytical capabilities on simple things are pretty good, but it will require something closer to the 5-year mark, I think, and AGI before we get a serious impact on complex business analysis, like really coming to a decision about what to do strategically That's not going to be provided by AI. So I think there's some hope for us humans here for a while anyway, while AI learns and becomes more proficient and gets closer to human reasoning.
So I think that's a good place to pick up the second quote, I guess it would be, because that I can build off of that, Andy, which is what I hear you saying is, okay, let's take the marketers. I used to run Facebook ads, but back in like 2015 on the side. And so I dabbled in it, let's just say, and I ran it for a couple other companies. I understood it at that time. It's become much more complex since then. Not a whole lot of AI involved at that time. There was just really, it was Facebook and it was complex boards that you had to do in order to figure out where your cost per clicks were and all that stuff that you have to figure out. And it was very time consuming. And, I was paid okay to do that on companies' behalfs. And nowadays, I think what I hear you saying, Andy, what I want to bring up this quote from the CEO of Nvidia on is it's not going to take as many person hours. It's not going to take as many people to monitor and deploy these, let's say, marketing campaigns. But, and this goes to the quote, I'll share it now, is it's still going to require humans to be involved because it's going to require specialization. And I think you're right. Like the idea that AI will take over and be able to run totally autonomous, full campaigns and be successful at it for companies, I don't believe that's even capable today or even in the next near future, because I don't think AI has the ability just yet to bring in the human element to it, which is really, really important. Sentiment and what's going on in the market. And I can't tell you how many times I had to shut off an ad because something came out in the news the next day that even though we had it set up was going to make the person or the company look bad, because it was going to make them seem like they weren't sensitive to I won't say that bad, but something in the news, something that was important in the news, and we had to shut down things really quick or whatever. I don't know that AI would necessarily be able to handle that right off the bat. But let me share this quote really quick from, and I don't want to say his name wrong. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. Jensen Huang, is that how you would say it?
Yeah, I'd say that.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if I was saying that right or not. And I got to share the tab so we can get the audio.
CEO of Nvidia.
Yes, he's the CEO of Nvidia, and he has this. It's 1 minute, so I just want to play the whole thing real quick. Okay, so I'm curious to get your guys, feedback on that quote. I think that's a really impactful quote, by the way, and I'm just curious to hear what you guys think about that as it relates to today.
When I think about like from the terms of coding, right now, this is something that a friend of mine also said in terms of law too. So it kind of points to the fact that it's like, I think right now you can't really, obviously you can't replace coders. Like you can use it to help you code, but you can't. But it's interesting that my friend who's a lawyer says, oh yeah, if you're a barrister or someone who doesn't do trial, yeah, I would encourage no high school student to even remotely go into law. That's it's just like AI is going to replace that. So when I heard this, I was like, interesting. Now I'm sure there's different fields. There's different areas where you can go, and I think like maybe today your kids can still go into code, but maybe in 5 years, let's connect what Sam Altman said back to this. In 5 years, it probably is not a good idea. Like if AGI can do, and we're talking about agents, GPT-6, whatever that is, with the higher level of reasoning, and back to a couple of our episodes, Andy and Beth, when we talked about our council of AI executives, and all they need is monkey fingers. You don't need any monkey fingers to create code for this one.
Right.
So that's where I'm thinking, like, if you connect all these dots together, and I don't think you can take Jensen's quote like just in a silo just for that, but all the different pieces that we're seeing all in different places, Replit, what they're doing, Cursor, like all these different tools that you have now, and Grok, combine everything together, then you can start seeing, wait a minute, do you really need to do this, or do you need to think more? Like, I've always connected it back to Lumiere's law, where we're still looking at this technology from the lens of current technology. We haven't actually moved away to think about it from a native sense. And so I think that's where he's going, where, you know, you may not need to code, but there's maybe something else that you need to start thinking about that will, because that you don't need to code, this is the stuff that you will need to do now.
And
So
I think I want to repeat his point that there is an assistant now out there in the form of AI that'll allow you to just speak plainly in whatever language you speak what you want the compute to do, and it'll generate code for you to do that. It'll even set up the architecture that you need to deploy that. And I've seen some incredible TikTok videos where somebody starts out in the session and actually ends up with an operating functional website, and they didn't touch it. They did not touch the keyboard. It was really, really
Right.
amazing. I wanted to point out also that the impact of AI on the workplace is going to be differential across different industries, and obviously we're already seeing disruption in customer support. Right? We've heard about I think it's Klarna. Is that right? Klarna,
the 700
humans from their customer support agent team. Why? Because AI can now handle that volume of calls that were previously covered by 700 individuals in that one company with better results. It's also going to affect administrative functions inside offices. There's no doubt about that in my mind, and a number of other industries. But there are certain areas, and I like to hear what you think, are relatively well protected from the incursion of AI, at least in the next several years.
Well, really short before we continue on to that, I wanted to point out something about the quote.
Which quote?
Sorry, Jensen's quote. My bad. It's he mentions domain expertise. I think that's the highlight there.
Yeah.
Right. AI will help you take your domain expertise and then expand upon that. Yeah. And I think that's what the main relation between, telling everyone, to learn to program and code and whatnot, is that it all depends on what your domain expertise is. He is not saying no one needs to go and become a expert in coding, because there's still going to be the people we need the ML engineers, we need the AI engineers and things like that. So I just wanted to make sure that we highlighted that domain expertise part. Be the best, or be the most knowledgeable, be the expert in whatever your domain is, and AI will fill up the backlog for you. It'll handle all of the low-hanging things. It'll handle, and as it develops, it'll handle the mid-level tasks and so on and so forth. But you still need to be an expert in whatever domain that you're focused on.
Which is an argument for specialization. You have to pick a domain of knowledge, and you're going to go deep in that one so that you're a very knowledgeable expert in that domain. But humans are capable of general intelligence, right? Artificial general intelligence is what we're talking about here. And so there's a tension there. Is it that humans, and what humans bring to the party, is really the lateral thinking and the interconnectivity of multiple domains of knowledge, and that sort of phantom elevation of solutions that borrow from broader expertise than would be provided if you took Jensen's admonitions correctly and said, okay, I'm going to just become an expert in this narrow domain. I'm going to become, a domain expert. Why?
So
Because I need somebody to need me specifically rather than generally.
right. So Eddie, are you saying that humans are a collection or council of experts themselves?
That's right. That's right. At least if they've been exposed to enough knowledge and
Right.
or struggles in arriving
Mhm.
at their average, not average, but their advanced general intelligence.
Yeah, I do agree that humans have the capability of being domain experts in multiple domains. I want to clarify that. When I say domain expertise, that just means you're an expert in that in a field. You can be an expert in multiple things. So
Right.
So
My
I
my
think
children should not become an expert in food service operations. That's not going to be with the advent of robotics. The automaton. What do they call it? Automats. Right. Way back at the beginning of the 20th century, there was the automat where you could go in and without a service person, that you just open up the little window and take out your food.
right.
That seemed like a major technological advance at the time. Well, it's going to be like that. You'll go up to eventually something that looks like the processor on the Starship Enterprise, and you just ask for the thing you want. It's going to come out of the window.
I think one of the things that's important is to understand if you are looking to become a domain expert, the thing that AI is the least expert in is the human experience of expertise or the human experience across knowledge. Because if you are competing with an AI to retain information and learn it quickly, you as a human are going to lose. So now what you want is to become an expert in this sort of resilience or collaboration or being able to engage with AI in a way that enhances your own capacity and your own expertise. Let your kids major in theater and go to liberal arts school, um, but but that kind of thing because it's so clear, right? Like when Gemini 1.5 started to come out, people were like, "Oh, I uploaded an entire biology textbook and it knew everything." Right?
Mhm.
So that's not what we mean by domain expertise because that's already something that you're already competing with AI about.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so, like, I want to get back to what you were saying, Andy. Like, what are we talking about? What are some of the jobs? Well, we've seen a sort of a renaissance. I feel like at least in the States for tradesman type jobs, and sort of maybe a little bit of a pushback. We certainly talked about college and stuff, but a little bit of a pushback about a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree is the only path forward for success. We're
Yeah.
seeing over and over and over again where people are clearly able to go into trades, get education right out of high school, and absolutely make more money out the gate like if you were going to do a 4-year school and a kid is going to get out at 21, 22, going into the trades, becoming, something like a marchman or a, what's it called? Is it marchman for electrical? Anyway, I think I'm saying that wrong. It's March. I think it is marchman. Anyway,
It's
but that's like
journeyman.
a specialist within electrical or whatever. That same kid can hit that by like 22, and absolutely, if we're just looking at dollars for dollars as far as a salary, absolutely eclipse what the median average would be for a college student. So I think the trades, I don't want to say, I don't want it to make it sound like safe, not safe or whatever, because I just watched a video that was really cool on TikTok of a guy doing a walk around wearing the Apple Vision Pro of it was a mound of like raw material, like in their at their processing plant, and he walked around it and he gave the height and the size and estimated how much raw material there was in this massive mound that he had to walk around. It was a huge mound that he had to walk around or whatever. And so he was using AI in a application like that, which is very interesting. So will we see heads up displays? Will we see these kind of things? Will electricians need to understand the interoperability of AI as it applies to their job? Yes. Is the AI going to go in the attic and connect the electrical? No. You're still probably going to need, for the time being, you're still going to need humans to go do the work and do that stuff. So I think a lot of those are safe. Where I think I would be concerned is if you're currently doing a job that's like very repetitive, data entry, telemarketing, some factory work that can be replaced by AI robots, where it's sort of a cut and paste of the same operations over and over and over again. There's a good chance, I feel like, where we're seeing where AI can step in, like we saw with Klarna. And in that case, it successfully took care of 66% of the customer service calls, which amounted to over 2.3 million different interactions. And it handled that, which is why they came out and the CEO said that's the equivalent of 700 workers. So we're already seeing that in things like customer service, travel agencies. We're seeing it with drivers, obviously, with autonomous driving, that side of AI, things like bank tellers. These are the types of roles that I would be concerned if I was, or maybe like you're saying, law in some cases. If I was thinking about going into these areas, I would be concerned that, okay, what is it that I'm hoping to do? Like what fills me with joy? What, it's not just about the paycheck, but what do I think I can do as a job that, lights me up? And then, okay, where do I think I want to make an impact? And then decide how you feel like you can use AI to supplement your domain expertise in that area. So that's sort of my take on it based on your question, Andy. I'd be curious to see what you guys think, though.
So I just want to name that is like great advice and good ways to think, but it also comes from a place of privilege, right? So some people are working that don't have to think job because they're working 3 of them and they're trying to put food on a table kind of stuff. And so and that I think is a societal question, right? Because
the scale of the question is, the Goldman Sachs study said that worldwide 300 million jobs will be displaced in the next 10 years. So and those are not going to be in the sort of the high-end, well-educated, privileged sectors of society so much as they will be in the areas where people were taking jobs that didn't require a whole lot of pre-training, like food service or call center operations. They could follow a script and so on. When those things disappear, there's a societal disruption here in addition to the workplace disruption, because a very large number of people are going to have no clear on-ramp to the workplace.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. If the job can be done by someone who has a ton of experience with an AI, where are the entry level options for that?
We do have to be careful, though, about the numbers that like a Gartner or all these research companies are coming out with, because I think a lot of it is just guesswork. We just don't really know, right? It's I know people quote it, but it's like, how did they where is that actual we can see it, we can see some trends, but like you can't take it. It's like, 300, because wasn't it last year there was like 300,000 like jobs will be. I was like, no. You don't know. We really don't know. Like, no, I can pull up numbers myself. It's like, I think 300,000, and then I'll put a bunch of data points. And just be very careful, because I think sometimes when we do that, you're I don't know if there's a reason behind why you do that, or but it just, I think it either at the minimum distracts, or at the worst starts getting people like riled up about something that it isn't actually like, wait a minute, there's no, you don't know, like there's no actual trend, there's no benchmarks, there's no nothing. So to make these really,
I'm going to push back on that, Karl. I haven't read the Goldman Sachs study, but I'm pretty certain they had a pretty clear methodology for arriving at what is a point estimate, clearly, and it's not precise. It's just an estimate, but that is scaling the problem. So 300 million out of the 9 billion or however many we have on the planet is not a meaningful number, but it's large enough if it's concentrated in workplace societies that aren't agrarian still, that it has a meaningful potential disruptive impact on the marketplace. So anyway, I'm not going to dismiss those studies, but I'm also not going to rely on them. I think you're right in saying we just don't absolutely know what the number is. But I think the number is probably higher.
I wish Robert was here because like he'd probably say yes to a lot of the stuff. I just been very careful because meeting with other people, meeting with like business owners, I want to be conscious of people actually having a real fear of it and be not propagating that fear to like,
Yeah,
oh my
and
god,
I don't think there's any near-term need to scare the people in small businesses in Calgary, for example. I
well, yeah,
agree.
no.
Okay? But I would say if I were in the call center business in the Philippines right now, I would be worried.
Sure.
I'd be
So
worried
I'm going to
about
say,
many
if you're
people.
in the call center business in the Philippines right now, this is a time to start imagining what is possible and start being able to help that. So worried for me feels like a cycle. Oh no, 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 right? So like actually there are things you can do to prepare. There are ways that you can engage and start imagining. The AI right now is the worst and slowest it will ever be, right?
Mhm.
So that is that's part of it too. Yeah, there was something
And
else I was going to
also,
say, but it flew out of my head. Somebody else take over.
well, no, I think we've also seen too, like we've seen this through history with humans, that there have been several major advancements, disruptions, if you will, with jobs. And if you really look at the history, or at least when I've listened to people talk about this who are knowledgeable in this, in all instances, there's been new jobs to replace it. Maybe we can't necessarily see exactly what those jobs would be, but it will shift, it will change. And I think in a lot of ways, it's going to open up new opportunities for people. Will it be, I only say this because my nephew is about to start his very first job, and it's at Chick-fil-A. And he starts like now, like really soon. And so like, will it affect him? Will it affect his ability to go in and get his very first job and start to get that, like we were saying, you've said before, Beth, that social, interactions with people, and how important and vital it is, just like going to maybe a college campus and having that social interaction and what that can do as far as lifetime success. I don't know. I am probably I'm more positive, I guess, on the idea that what this hopefully will do, when I think about my daughter but all ages, is I feel like it's going to, kind of like what Jensen said, it's going to be exciting to see where our next generations and current workers take this when they stop being held down by boring, repetitive tasks that are part of their job that they don't necessarily love. Maybe they got into that particular field because there was things they loved about it, and they only do it 20% of their time because just the way it is, 80% of their time is the repetitive, boring stuff. And they stay because the 20% lights them up. It's so good. I would have said the same thing about firefighting. 90% of my day was like annoying as a firefighter. But then 10% of the time I got to fight fires and smash shit, throw things out the windows. And I thought, this is a pretty great job. I like this a lot. I want to do this more. But you had to ride the 10% bumps, right? In order to make that job doable over the long term. And so I'm really excited. And I'll just, as my wrap up on this, I'll just say I'm personally very excited because I think it's going to enable generations to go into areas that maybe they would have stayed away from, that actually do light them up, that do bring them joy, that bring them value, that allow them to bring the best of them and help and add something to the overall society. Because they know now, oh, I'm going to have this sort of AI assistant that's going to handle the boring, repetitive stuff, and that allows me to free up my time to be really, truly, uniquely amazing and push this forward in some way that makes sense for them. So I'm not saying that great, but that's where my brain is on this. Is like, that's my hope of this, is that I think there'll be more jobs than will be lost net because of AI, and also I think it's going to lead to more general overall, I hope, happiness, because it means more people get to do what they actually love to do for their job.
Yeah, I agree. I like the potential quality of life increase overall for people. I think we have to be very cognizant and aware that we're making strides towards that, because you can totally see that we could go down a wrong path where it's not helpful for we'll say the everyday person, right? But if we focus on the quality of life overall for people and make those changes on the macro level, society level, AI can pick up a lot of the slack for us.
I'm going to say I'm worried still. Think about the disruption of the main street retailers that kept people in business and fed their families for so long. And then the big box stores came in town, and that main street got wiped out. And that had a really, really devastating impact on the well-being and the economic welfare of small town America. And I'm sure it happened similarly in other countries. So here we have a situation where, what are you going to be willing to spend money on to support the people behind the goods and services that you buy? Are you gonna do the low cost, AI superior thing, or are you going to try to do something that spends your money? And by the way, ancillary to that question is, what are you doing to generate money now that isn't being disrupted by AI? I think there's a big thing to worry about here. It's equivalent to the disruption of the whole retail economy that supported so many families. Similarly in farming, right? Farming used to be something that kept families fed in very large numbers, not as large as the population on the planet today, but then it was replaced by industrial farming. And there's a similar thing happening here with AI and knowledge work.
Yep. So I think one of the things that's important to understand based on what Karl and Andy were talking about is there may be some debate about what the effects will be when the change occurs, but there is no debate about the change occurring. So where you find yourself on that path that Jyunmi was talking about, like maybe we're going to go on the correct path. I don't know where you live, but in my state, I'm right outside of Washington, D.C. There's a lot of debate about where we are societally on the path, but you have the ability to turn your feet around and shift your path. And this is a great time to think about that. Come back, listen to us. We talk about it all the time.
We'll leave it there for today. Come on back tomorrow. We're doing our bi-weekly recap, so we might touch on some things that came up out of this episode, but also any of the episodes we've done in the last 2 weeks. I like these wrap-up shows. They're fun because it really does give us the ability to circle back to a lot of the great topics we've talked about and add a little bit extra flavor to them, or things that have come up off camera, off recording. So that'll be tomorrow's show. Come back and hang out with us. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Hope you found this insightful and helpful, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Aloha.